I want to introduce the next speaker, and I think the introduction is who the next speaker is very, very important to me as a way of introducing. And a lot of the people here knew my father, know my father, but it's a good introduction. The next speaker was my father loved Rav Ezi, loved. Anybody who was Zaycha to be in Sulam saw it. In my house, we saw it. I was talking to Rabbi Russ today, and he got emotional that Rav Ezi speaking. He said, Abba loved Rav Ezi. I want to tell you two things. My father had values in the home that were ironclad. There were values. Chashivas HaTorah was a value, the importance of Torah. One of the values that my father lived with was if somebody makes Yidden happy was like big stuff. Singers in Klal Yisrael, people who sing, the covet to singers, Lipa in my home was very respected by my father. He sings for Yidden. Every Yid was respected. Somebody makes Yidden happy. My father was a serious person and took things seriously. He would come from the Gemara Tainus. Somebody makes Yidden happy. He brought us as youngsters to a concert. My father was very time conscious. And he waited. He brought us to the concert, to some nice concert. Miami Boys Choir, some concert. And we waited at the end. My father went up to the runner of the concert and said, I'm mekana you. And he wanted to praise him. And it left the Reishim. I remember it now. It's about 40 years later, and I won't forget, my father told him, I'm jealous of you. My father didn't talk like that. He didn't say hyperbole. He said it. He didn't like exaggerations. He said, I'm jealous of you. You make Yidden happy. And he taught him the Gemara that a Ben Olam Haba makes Yidden happy. Lipa Schmelzer once came to Sulam, and he spoke for a few minutes before he sang. And he said that people should forgive. He said that people should forgive if they have a tain on somebody. My father, Lipa, makes Yidden happy, was so moved. He told me that there's somebody I'm upset at for a couple of years. I'm going to be Meichlim and I'm going to call him to work it out. At Shiva, when I was sitting Shiva for my father, a Yid sat down and said, I was good friends with your father. And he told me we worked out something because Lipa Schmelzer told him that he should forgive. And he called me and we became friends the rest of his life. Lipa makes Yidden happy. His word's very big by my father. It's a special Yid Stam, but he makes Yidden happy. My father loved people who make Yidden happy. He liked people, good sense of humors. He liked Rav Ezi for many reasons, but he loved his humor. He makes people happy, makes people smile. That was a big value. He loved people. They connected. Rav Ezi has an Avas HaTorah. I'm not here to... was speaking about Rav Ezi should live many long years. Rav Ezi was 30 years younger than my tata. My father were like best friends. When he would come in Sukkot, the first days, my father used his time very wisely. Rav Ezi had him teaching us history. I never heard my father talk about his grandfather. It was a schos for us. Rav Ezi got it out of him. And he just appreciated Rav Ezi a lot, the Torah person who makes people happy, makes people smile. That was like a big value. Obviously, Rav Ezi, Talmud Chacham, to watch the interaction, to watch a person. My father was so young. He was so young. He was over 30 years older. Rav Ezi, he would love and enjoy. Rav Ezi came in, my father would light up, and of course Rav Ezi would light up. They were close chaverim and yedidim. Rav Ezi was a Talmud, but there was a yedidus, a friendship. It was something like beautiful to see, to experience and witness. So I'd like Rav Ezi to come up, please, and share some divrei zikaron.
I think Leilam's familiar. There's an expression that the Gemara has, Yasam b'chaye aviv, Yasamim b'chaye av. We just experienced a hesped b'chaye nifter. Rishis Rosh Hashiva, Marida Asra, Chashuv Mishpacha, Kol HaKadosh Hazeh. I'll try my best to echo what Rosh Hashiva had focused on: the normalcy, the consistency of personality. There was never any inconsistency It was the same person in every situation, the same tzaddik, the same Talmid Chacham. If I may express, as the Mardasra said, I consider it tremendous chus, and I don't know. The reason for why I was zeicha is unknown to me. That I had some opportunity to, like Rabbi said, a Talmud, but not really. I can't say that. It's not precise. That wasn't the relationship. Maybe to fault of mine, but more to not to his blame, to his credit. I was treated like a friend, and I hope I'll be able to show you what I mean. But there was a certain equality. I had this chus. It's good, maybe more than 15 years ago, over 2 summers, is where we really had I really had the opportunity to have a kesher, and literally like a DMC. I'm not kidding. I mean, imagine if you know, I'm not the nifter Zechrona Livracha was not one to engage in long, deep, meaningful conversations, and I don't know how. So it was a very I look back, it's a tremendous chus. I consider it a very unique opportunity. Mamish like real genuine conversations and sharing, the content of which I didn't even attempt to send to the Ami. I'm not that stupid. But what I will share with you is a couple of anecdotes that I want to try to bring out a very specific limud, a specific inspiration that I hope is relevant to all of us. What's very popular today, and it's not something that I'm not denigrating it. I'm not saying that it's a wrong practice, but it's just it's become very popular where there are discussions and Q&A or roundtable or whatever about chinuch and the way to be mechanech and to, bags of tricks and shticks and different means and manipulations of how to influence. What's that very popular book, 7 Ways to Influence and Manipulate People or something? It's very popular today. Unfortunately, I think it's infiltrated into our culture as well to some degree, of the best way to be mechanech, which is just the Hebrew word of manipulate or whatever it is, to try to impress upon youngsters, to get them to do what you want or what you think Hashem wants. There's something, and this is like the thing I want to talk again, and I hope I'm trying to include, when you talk about such a great person, you talk about Rabbeinu Zechrona Livracha, to try to discuss a lifetime of dedication, devotion to Torah, the Hasmadas HaTorah, the Simchas HaChaim, the Yashrus, like Rabbi said, the focus to be an Eved Hashem, to do the right thing. It's very difficult. So I want to try to, I hope I'm including also the Hasmadah, the Simchas HaChaim, the greatness that we saw. There's an alternative to learning all the shticks and the tricks. And that is, I think, someone who lives right. I don't think it's just an alternative. I just think it's so much more powerful. Someone who's just living right, everything that's being done is being done right, just living right. And I'm going to share with you what I personally experienced. Everything that I'm saying is something that I saw myself, so it's klirishin. Maybe if you don't trust me, it's your problem, but this is what I can share with you. It's not something that I heard, something that someone told me, but I was able to see myself. Just a couple of anecdotes. It was, I'll tell you the first time that, I can't say it was the first time I ever saw him, the first time that I ever had a real appreciation and exposure to Rabbeinu was by Moshe Shalom Zachar. So it's 21 years ago? 22, happy birthday, okay. And it's mamish around this time of year. So 22 years ago, I had the occasion, we were in Harborview for Shabbos by Moshe Kalish's Shalom Zachar. I walked in. There was so much light. There was a Bachram there. Yisrael Majeski was there. I think Elchanan Shaf was, Alicia may have been there as well. You weren't there. There was so much warmth and camaraderie. The Rebbe said, Rabbi Yosef was there. So there was a certain sense, Rabbi Yosef, like Rebbe said. The Rebbe was sitting surrounded by what he considered his Einiklach. And the discussion naturally, like Rashiva mentioned, naturally turned to the Masechta we were discussing. And I'll tell you the first thing my first exposure to Rabbeinu, what he said, it meant so much to me. I don't think I can ever forget it. We're learning Masechta Ksubas. I want to tell you the funniest taistis. It's such a funny taistis. You want to hear funny taistis? So, there's something so meaningful about that it's personal and it means something. Can I tell you it's such a funny taistis. Taistis say, of course I'm going to say in the voice that I heard, if you don't mind, or even if you do, you'll forgive me. Where taistis say that Rav Yochanan argues with Rav, and Rav is the Tana. Rav Tana Palik. How does Rav Yochanan argue with Rav? Rav's the Chetana. That's the kash that taistis dealing. How does Rav Yochanan argue on Rav? Rav's the Tana. You know what he says? Such a funny taistis. It's so funny. You know what he says? Why Rav Yochanan holds? I hold you, not a Tana. Isn't that funny? It's so funny. Guf and Demich things. How does Rav Yochanan argue on Rav? Rav's a Tana. Guess what? I hold you, not a Tana. Isn't that funny? Now, what I was experiencing, I'm trying to express to you what I was experiencing. What I saw was someone who's not trying to say it in the shtickiest way that'll really get us to really give it. If he would have been, I'm convinced that alone, I never spied on him, so I never got an opportunity to see him when I wasn't there, when he didn't know I was there. But I suspect that I'm convinced, if he would have been there alone, he would have said, it's so funny this time. It's such a funny taistis. I don't know if we have that, but I think there's a certain power to someone who's living just true and true to self. And living right, and living on your own. I'm not trying to get you. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There's a certain sincerity, authenticity to someone who is not there to try to get you in the direction that he wants. He's living life because he's living life the way life should be lived. This was less, this was actually one-on-one. In the summer, he would give a shiur in the morning for a few minutes following davening, and he would go through Pashat Shulchan Aruch, Mishnah Berurah, in Orach Chaim. It was by the halacha where he was talking about where the Mechaber tells us that you need to have kavanah by davening. There's such a halacha. And Mechaber says if you can't be mechavan by the entire davening, you have to be mechavan at least by the first bracha. You should be mechavan by the first bracha of Shemoneh Esrei. And the Mechaber tells you if you don't have kavanah by the first bracha of Shemoneh Esrei, you have to go back, you have to repeat the entire Shemoneh Esrei because it's ma'akev, you have to have kavanah by the first bracha. The Ramah comes along, the Ramah says that even if you didn't have kavanah by the first bracha, even though it's ma'akev, says the Ramah, don't repeat it. Why not? Because you're not going to have kavanah the second time either. Today, you're so spaced out that you're not going to kavanah by the second. Even if you repeat it, it's likely you're not going to have kavanah by the second time. So just keep going. I go like the Mechaber. It seems so cynical, Ezzy. Isn't that cynical? He took it so personally. It was so personal, Rabbi. It was like, it seems such cynicism. It happens sometimes. You come to davening and you vertracht in a taisvis. You forget, I'm supposed to have kavanah. It happens. So the next time I'm going to have, I promise, I'll try my heart. It was so beautiful. You saw like a Talmud talk. Rabbi, he was like bargaining with Ramah. I promise this time I'll have kavanah. I promise. I'm going to try my best. It happens sometimes. It's such. Now, any of us might, enjoy, we have a Geshmak Machlekes Machaber. You see how personally it was taken? He took it so personally. It's so powerful to have someone living right and living with meaning and living with authenticity and not trying to say what sounds popular, what sounds right, or what you might find the most attractive. It seems so cynical. Such cynicism. Such cynicism, So I hold, that's why he went like Mechaber says, personally, there's a psak that he held, you're not yaitze, why wouldn't I repeat the bracha? I'm not going to get it. I'm telling you this time I'll concentrate. Of course, naturally I said, yeah, Rabbi, I know what the Rambam is talking about. I relate well. So good, all right. You don't have to agree. I'm just trying to portray to you what it means living right, living for yourself. Not trying to create greater Talmidim that are more following in your path. I want to share with you just one or two more, and if you thought this was a little blunt, this, brace yourselves for this one. There was it was, again, the same summer program. There was a young man who came to a group of us, a group of the, again, this goes back a good 15 years. And the young man was reporting the news that he had been dismissed from this particular program, and he was saying, I was chucked, whatever. All of us that were told that, we all had the same reaction. We all had the same reaction to Sodi. Again, he was coming forward and explaining, I was thrown out of the camp. I'm leaving now. So we all again, we all have to put on that, chinuchi, tricky, sticky, mode. And we all came and said the same thing. Ay, really? Meanwhile, we're all thinking, duh, can't believe it took this long. But we all, you can't say that. So we all came forward with the same expression, like, ay, how God, ay, 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 ay. The Bachar approaches the Rabbi. I'm telling you what I saw. I'm quoting. He comes to Rabbeinu and he says, I was chucked, whatever, I was chucked. Right? And I was that Bachar. I'm kidding. And the Bachar comes and he says, Rebbe, I was thrown out. That's so sad. That's the first step. This is not like something that I'm going to try to plague at you for. It's sad. It's very unfortunate. I'm not happy that this happened. And I'm with you. And that's so sad. 3 words. 3 words of real feeling of being with the guy. Instead of fake, ploy me, almighty, shticky, tricky. That's so sad. Shlav Aleph. That's step 1. What'd you do? Smoking, cursing, drinking, all 3? Step 2. Because there's a reason why you're getting, it's not for naught. There's a reason. Maybe reflect on it. Next time, you'll be more careful. Just write the yashrus, the pashtus, the emes, the emes, you know what I'm saying? The tmimus and the straightness. It was so refreshing. We looked at each other. I'm not going to say the names of the others who were shticky tricky, but we looked at each other. It was so refreshing to us. It was a musser. That's so sad. Well, they caught you on all 3? Okay, next time you'll be careful. He meant something serious. Something serious is happening here, and I'm taking you very, very seriously, and I'm holding you to a level that you don't hold yourself. And you're coming forward. Now, again, this is not related discussion. Don't throw a kid out. We're not talking about this is B'dei Avad already, and Kalish, Zechron Levracha, wasn't the one who made the decision. But now you're coming and you're telling me this. It's very sad. And next time you'll be more careful. It was so refreshing to us to see such pashtus and such tmimus and such yashrus in like the Rebbe said, in what we would call normal Talmud Chacham. And of course, that Bachar is sitting in this room. No, I'm kidding. But I don't know what happened to him. Whatever. I'm sure he's doing well. Anyway, that's not my point at all. I'm not giving you a gross, deep art school story. I'm telling you a sincere person that I saw. I really believe, honestly, I'm trying to bring a point. I think, okay, not just for us that were standing there. I believe that there was something meaningful. I believe that this straightforward, pashtus, unfiltered and unadulterated expression of truth meant more to this young man than any of our shticky, tricky, baloney, lovey, baloney. I believe that. I think that's what we saw. I have a habit of amusing myself with, my own imagination. Not necessarily that I'll share it with, Jewish publication, but, I sometimes think about, what if we would have Rabbeinu Shlita, if he would be up there, like, in one of these, like, chinuchi, which are good, they're great. You could probably tell I love these things, but, you have these things where they're asking, my child is a little bit active, and, what's the proper way to impress upon him, the proper mode of behavior? Patches in bed, let's go. Give him patches and send him to bed. Patches in bed was a big expression. I'll tell you, this once experience we had, when we were in camp, Kalman got it once. It was late at night, and Kalman was, being Kalman, whatever. He was a little 2-year-old kid still before the Upsharon, and it was very cool, because he had, like, this beautiful blonde locks, and with the baseball cap, I put, like, we put it that He had like big boingy pay. He looked like a Hasidic kid. It was very cute. And I brought him to Rabbi Kalish and I said, I don't know why, but usually like Rabbi said, he would be amused. He wasn't like, I don't know, he wasn't like there at the point. So I showed him, he's like, let's go, Kalman, Patches and Dad. So, which again is just an expression of like, we don't need to like conform to the style or the norm of the time or the norm of the day or the flavor of the day. To live right, to live correctly, to live properly. And I think everything, if I dare say, I think everything stems from that. From a tmimas halev, from a pashtus, from a yashrus, from a real sincerity, authenticity. The hasmada is a natural taitza of such a midah of doing what's right, of focusing on doing what's right, on being right, on living right, under all circumstances, no matter what. And that's, I hope that's what we could all try to, a little bit in our own way, what it means. It's another memory that I have, like, you think everybody's got to be like Yehoshua, Kalish, and Moshe Brown? Everybody think they're trying to, you do your one blot or one line, whatever it is. That's a memory that I have from him. But everybody to live, doing right, living right, it's much more powerful when you live for yourself, for your own steig, not to, try to focus on Yenim or your kids or whatever. To live right, hashpa can be so much more powerful if you're doing and you're living what's right and you're living with a certain yashrus and a pashtus and a tmimus. Rabbeinu should be, so I hope that the inspiration that's derived this evening should be an inspiration, should be a tremendous chus for the neshama of Rabbeinu. He should continue to be a me'etz yesher for his chasham mishpacha, for all of us and for all of Klal Yisrael. Misha amar lo elamay dai yom l'tzarasenu dai vivasan b'seres teves Yeshuas v'nechamas amen ken yiratzon.
Thank you, Rav Ezi. That was amazing. The task to speak at a levaya, the task is just to be honest and present. It's a relatively simple task to speak at a levaya because raw and just where are you and what are you feeling and emote. And that's the task of speaking at a levaya. Speaking at a shleishim or a zikaron as this is right before the shleishim is much more difficult. My sister, Malki's here, my wife, my sister, children, grandchildren, Maishi, brother-in-law, Rav Eli, people are here. And to speak now, you had close to 30 days to try to give over a very big person. And what you say, I ask myself, that's what you're going to say? That's it? What are you picking? What are you saying? This was a very, very big person. Learning, davening, midas, many areas and specifics in all those topics. So it's a much more difficult task to get up, to speak now, and to say, I want to share. Afterwards, I'll go home. My wife was, that's what you wanted to say. It's a complicated task. If I could share this with my friends, I like everybody here. So I guess I just want pity that it's a difficult task to do this. But what I would like to share with everybody here, having had time to think and thinking about this day and night, not what I want to share, thinking about my father, day and night now, constantly, being, when I'm sleeping, certainly, then I'm just sleeping. When I'm watching a Knick game, probably my mind's not on this, but really thinking a lot about my father, my mind dominated by thoughts. This is what I want to share. This is what I'd like to share with everybody here. My father went to Leil, which today is became Haftar. My father went to Leil. My mother went to Central. Central is MTA, it still exists. It's MTA's sister school. Wonderful schools of good people trying to educate Yidden. It was not very normal, as the Rosh Yeshiva said, it was not normal in their environment. My father, when he graduated 12th grades, 50 boys graduated 12th grade, 2 boys learned any time. The other boys, I'm sure, like Torah. Talking about that went to Beis Medrash 2 out of 50. When my father went, it is the early 1960s, 2 out of 50. One boy learned for a year after high school. By the second year of high school, my father was the only boy learning Torah. The only. My grandparents were wonderful people, like really beautiful Yidden. My grandmother went to public school. My grandfather left yeshiva at the age of 13. My grandparents wanted my father to go to college. My father was very, very smart. My grandparents wanted him to go to college. His friends were very rich people. Klal Yisrael has money. This was the generation, his friends, their parents were immigrants. His friends became doctors and lawyers and all different businessmen. My father had the mind to very much succeed in the world. And his parents wanted him to do what every single person, his whole class, 48 out of 50, and a year later, 49 out of 50 did, just be normal. My mother went to Central. In her community, there was no such thing as Cairo. There was no such thing. Beautiful Jewish community. There was no such thing in the city of Cairo. There was no such thing. And my parents made a funny decision. They decided young, we're learning Torah and we're teaching Torah. That's what my parents decided. My father decided. He had a television in every room in his house. And he said, I'm learning Torah. And for 10 years, he didn't look at a television in his house. I'm learning Torah. And my mother decided, it was a team. They were very close. And they decided as a team, we're spending our life learning Torah and teaching Torah is what we will do. That's what these two people decided together. Incredible teammates. I grew up in Far Rockaway. There were not many Klei Kodesh at the time. It's a beautiful city today with koilim everywhere. That wasn't the city I moved to. I may have been maybe one other kid. Every single kid in my class lived in a house. I lived in an apartment. I thought we were rich. When Rafi Pearl came to spend, I said, we live in an apartment. I wasn't a liar. I said we like living 7 kids in one bedroom. We just love each other. And we moved to our first house. My parents couldn't get anybody into the room downstairs. We all want to be together. Till they got my brother, David Shimon, to agree. But my parents decided we're learning Torah and teaching Torah. And what I want to say on my father, and I want to say on my parents, Imi Mairasi, she'll live Arichas Yam B'Shanim. But I want to say on my father's Atzal, Zechreinu Livracha. I want to say that he was an incredible ambassador for Torah. He was an ambassador for Torah. We had a guy, I grew up in a 2-family house. The downstairs people were more wonderful American type family. The son was 17. He listened to loud Lebedika music. I know some of the music in the dorms from my youth. He was bouncing to Geshmaka music. It was a 2-family house. We heard his music. He today he was a Rosh Hashiva. He learns in Eretz Yisrael. He spoke at my father's Levaya in Eretz Yisrael. I heard him say this many times. We grew up in the same house. We were brothers. He was a modern guy having fun. And he says, I became a Ben Torah. He said, in my life, to be happy meant you're rich. If you don't have money, you're not happy. And a guy moves upstairs. And the guy is the poor. I see his car is a jalopy. I never saw a car look like this, he said. And the man is the happiest person I ever met in my life. He's not an exaggerated guy. There's a blunt talker, if you know him. He said he's the happiest person I ever met in my life. He said it bothered me. I was mad. Who is this guy to be so happy? My father was an ambassador for Torah. He had a good life. It's not normal. The Messiah Sharm says 1 in 1,000 most people don't have a good Olam Hazeh. It's tough. There are different ways to read it. My father, his sefer is Messiah Sharm. I have another pshat in Messiah Sharm. My father shlugs it up unless he's the 1 in 1,000. He had a very good life. Happy. Anybody saw him? Happy. A zest. Just a delicious life. He was mu'usher. He was wealthy. happy, full of good, a beautiful marriage, beautiful family life, beautiful community life. Any standard in the world, 8 billion people would acknowledge that man is happy. That man has a good life. Anybody who met him would say, we were zeicher with the Thailers in the summer. My father loved the Thailers a lot. I liked it. We went boating, the Thailers. My father loved the water. He loved going on the water, and we shared a love for the water with the Thaler family. Anybody who saw him, this man has a good life. A beautiful life, a happy life. Now it's true, he was very positive and he had a good attitude. But what he taught the world, what he taught me, from being around my father, the last kufa, I've been with my whole life, I was raised by my father. In the last kufa, while he was sick, I spent a lot of time there. Since his patira, being with my mother, with the whole family, thinking about him, I am learning more Torah personally. I'm trying to be more serious about my learning. It's not like I do want to do things b'schusay. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just like reminded Torah. He was an ambassador to be around him, to be near him, to be in his environment. He was an ambassador for Torah, for learning Torah, for teaching Torah. He taught Torah 47 years in Yeshiva Rockaway. He has Talmidim who learned Torah by him for decades and decades. He was an ambassador for Torah. By the Levaya, I had to sing. We were taking my father and carrying him out. I asked Johnny, I love you, Johnny, and appreciate you. I had to sing Eitz Chaim Hilmach Sikimba. The Sefer Torah was being put away. He was an ambassador for Torah. And I had to sing. It had to be. I don't like fake things. It would be weird at the funeral. I waited only because I want the world. It's not so common to sing at funerals. But at some point, I couldn't hold out. Emma has to win. And we sang. Johnny's an aide. Did you start it for me? We sang. And I want to learn 3 psukim. I want to say these 3 psukim. We put away the Sefer Torah. We sang it at the Levaya. We'll sing it tonight. And we sang these words at the Levaya. I needed to sing it. We were putting away a Sefer Torah. And I want to talk about these 3 words. Since my father's patira in Yeshiva, the guys are angels. I daven every morning. If I heard somebody praying over and over, I'd want to shoot the guy. I have to ask people what to do. The guys are angels. Guys are like, thank you, Rabbi, wonderful. Nobody has shot me yet. I daven a little slowly and stop. I don't care. I don't have the best voice every day. And then they put up most Mondays and Thursdays. It's not typical to sing during the week, but I've been singing Ki Lekach Toiv. These words, we put away the Torah. These words hit me by the Levaya. They hit me by the Kfura. And since my father's patira, I can't stop focusing on these 3 psukim. I'd like to speak about my father through these 3 psukim. I'd like to learn these 3 psukim with everybody here. I see my father in these 3 psukim. I see a life of a yid who was an ambassador for learning Torah. Anybody who doubts, learn Torah and live it and be loyal to it, if you met him, there's nothing to talk about. There's no, like Rav Ezi beautifully described, he didn't preach, he never once in my life told me to go to a minyan, never once in my life. I feel like now my father's working with me. I'm not so good with time. My father did try to tell me, Daniel, to be mechazik in time. Now I'm trying my hardest. My wife and kids get a kick out of me running, trying to be on time for the minyan. The guys in the yeshiva are angels. They've been patient, and I appreciate it. We have a beautiful minyan going in the morning. But he never once in my life forced me to a davening. Never once in my life forced me to learn Torah. Never once. No guzma, never once. Midas, he was tough. Chutzpah was tough. He was very strict on that. Midas Tavis. But since these psukim are hitting me a lot, and I'd like to learn the 3 psukim with everybody here. If we could walk away with 3 psukim, I'd like to speak about my father in these 3 psukim. And then let's sing these 3 psukim together. The 3 psukim are what we say when we put away a Sefer Torah. And we say, Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem Torasi al tazoivu, pasuk 1. Eitz chayim ilmachzikim ba v'seimchem u'ushar, pasuk 2. And duracheh dar chinoyim v'chol nesivaiseh, pasuk 3. There are 3 psukim from Mishlei. I have liked Mishlei for many, many, many years. I have a leaning and a drawing to that beautiful sefer of Mishlei, that sefer, that holy sefer. And all these 3 psukim are from Mishlei. It's out of order. It's exactly backwards. That reminds me of my father, who had a kasha on Torah, that Torah is written backwards, not enkan makom laharach. But the psukim are backwards. Why it's backwards, I have no idea. But the 3 psukim are out of order. Figure it out. But I'd like to study the 3 psukim with everybody here. I'd like to tell you about my father in these 3 psukim. The first pasuk says, Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. I have given you a good transaction. A lekach, we're going to teach. Some say it means a good teaching. Art School says very nice things. The pashtus of a lekach is a transaction. A lekach is a transaction. I've given you a good transaction. Which begs the question, the Barditchever asked the Kasher of Levi Yitzchak, that I gave you a transaction, I sell you a transaction. And it says about Torah, Hashem says, Ki lekach toiv nasati lochem. I gave you a good transaction. I ask you, Torasi, my Torah, al tazoivu, don't forsake it. So it doesn't mean I gave you a transaction. The question of the Barditchever. My friend Rav Ari, she taught me a marsha, a beautiful marsha. And the marsha says it's a transaction. It doesn't call, Torah is a tremendous gift, but Shabbos is just a gift. You don't have to work on it. Shabbos is gorgeous. Torah, there's amelus, there's toil, as the Rosh Hashiva said. You toil, you have hana, tremendous joy, but you have to toil. You have to toil. So it's a transaction, you have to invest. And of course, Hashem gave us this. It's like a broker who gives you a deal that can give you ashiris, wealthy. But what does it say? Nasati lachem, I gave it to you. Did you ever buy something from somebody that the person didn't really want to sell? The Gemara in Bracha says by many transactions, the seller was forced to sell. Did you ever buy a car from an older woman who just can't drive anymore, but it's difficult to part with the car? Did you ever buy a house from somebody who was downsizing and it's like the hardest thing to sell the house? Did you ever buy a business from somebody who made money and it's dear to them? Did you buy a campus from somebody who loves it? I remember when the yeshiva bought Durham, the guy expressed, I was there at the meeting, the guy expressed to the yeshiva, to Rav Elephant, that he likes this place, he has to sell. He claimed he took less money. I like what you're doing. Hashem says, Torah is precious to me. Torasi, somebody else, you could sell pizza and you're happy the buyer bought it, but he calls it Torasi after he sells it. It's not something I want to part. Nasati lachem, but I trust you. I know you're going to use this well, and it's in such good hands. Nasati ba'ayin yafa, the Marsha says, Ki lekach toiv, I'm giving you something that's precious to me, Torah. But I know you're going to use it well. I know you're going to value it. I know you'll take care of it. I know you'll be kind to it. Tairasi al tazoivu, please don't forsake my Torah. I trust you. It means a lot to me, Hashem says. And I'm giving you that which is precious to me. It's not like I want to sell it and want to get rid of this. I just know it's in good hands and it's going to be well by you. My father took Torah very seriously. He didn't like when you said pshatim that he didn't think was true. He took it so sincerely, Rav Ezi described it. It was very sincere. He wasn't looking to sound smart. He didn't care when people asked questions. Brilliant, not. He gave shiurim for 60 years, for many years. He said shiurim, thousands of hours. Somebody asked silly questions. He took completely serious. Completely serious. Torah was serious. It was in such good hands. The Torah that was precious, that was important, that was valued, that was studied with sincerity. He wasn't the person's brilliant, not brilliant, could say, each person who learned, each one who came to a shir, any level, it made no difference. It was very serious by him, learning Torah, living Torah. There was a sincerity. It was in good hands, the Torah, of somebody who really valued Torah and learned it was a joy, it was benachas, it was comfortable, it was unforced. He loved Torah, he was sincere about Torah, he took Torah very, very seriously. If somebody just would say wild things that they didn't believe, if it wasn't close to him, he said cute and he gave you funny comments. To the children, if he said something that I wasn't being real, the conversation was over. Because Torah was serious, very. It's precious, it's important. My father loved humor. If somebody made fun of a mitzvah, that I saw him very upset twice. Somebody mocked a mitzvah, something from the Torah. Make fun of something of Torah, very upset. The Torah was very serious by him. It's a precious gift from Hashem. It was in very good hands, the Torah. He learned and took the Torah remarkably serious. Each halacha of the Torah, each din of the Torah was very serious and important to him. Each person's learning, different people came. A guy said to me at Shiva, I slept through 7 years of your father's shir. Then he said, I learned Shas 2 times, the next 14 years I was awake. You know I was awake the next 2 times? Because those 7 years, my father took him serious. He came to learn. A yid came to learn. You would watch the shir, this one sleeping, people are learning Torah. People came to learn Torah. Somebody asked, people asked brilliant kashas. Somebody asked klutz. He said a Rambam shir for 10 years, nifla, go'inus. Then there's a person who doesn't understand, asks funny, others can snicker. It was very serious. It's learning Torah. People came over, asked questions and learning. Halacha, any shayla, serious, it mattered. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem. I have given you something that's precious. It's a great deal, and I trust you that you'll value this. It's important to me. And Hashem is sameach to us have the Torah. Nasati ba'ayin yafa. The Torah was in good hands of my father. Yeah. That's pasuk 1. Ki lekach toiv nasati lachem Torah se'al tazevu. Eitz chayim ilamach sikim ba. The Torah is a tree of life for those who grab on to Torah. My father's chiyus, his energy, his zest for life was illogical. He was 78, he was nifter at 79 years old. He had the energy of a youngster. I did not have the energy of my father. His schedule was not to be believed, not normal. Learned 7 blot a day. He said daf yomi. He had a koilel. Then a Svardi yeshiva said, could you be Rosh Yeshiva of the yeshiva? So he took over Rosh Yeshiva of Svardi yeshiva, said shiurim daily to them. Then Guy Shoshan told him to write a sefer. So he wrote a sefer, the chiddush on every blot in Shas. My mother said it was the busiest 2 years of his life, the last 2 years. Then he was running families, countless chesed, being an incredible husband, father, grandfather. His schedule was not normal. The chiyus of a youngster. It's hard, his parting, because he just was so young. A young man just left. When he was sick in bed at the end for a few weeks, we didn't see him like that. I was upset, the nurses, to see my father down. I told the lady nurse, a poor lady, she was such a tzaddikus, I said 3 weeks ago he would have smeared you in tennis. I don't think she knows what shmeared means, and she's wondering what sicko was worried that he'd win a tennis game, but it was hard to me. Nobody ever saw him down. He was full of life, chiyus, smiling. He was playing tennis on Fridays with his partner. He was running. He skied with his koila last year. Typically, a 79-year-old man, you would tell the new Talmidim, let me tell you what he once was. The guys in his koila Elul saw a young man. The guys, you don't have to tell them anything about years ago. Zero, I have nothing to say. Avi Lachman got my father at 78. He saw a young man. He skied with my father, for the guys in the koil who can keep up. And I want to say that Eitz Chayimi, it's true what the Torah says, that it's a source of chiyus for those that hold on to it. It's a source of life, Eitz Chayimi, in this world and the next. Eitz Chayimi. It's a tree of life. He was a machzik in Torah. He held on to Torah, and he was a tree of life. V'soimchen, those that support Torah. Those that are ambassadors for Torah, that teach it, that support. Mu'ushar, they're wealthy people. He was the richest person. He was a happy person. A sameach b'chelkai. He loved this world. He loved this world. He enjoyed. He had his geschmack for him here. But I want to share something else. There are people that become millionaires. I have seen it in my life, but nobody around them becomes rich. I've seen people becomes a different type of millionaire that everybody who works for him becomes rich also. It's something different. My father respected every single, sometimes people use the word balabas. It sounds, my father pushed his kids, go work. He valued working. My brother, who's a Talmud Chacham Muflig, is a lawyer. My father had such nachas. He's supporting his family. And he valued each person. And a yid works any job. He had tremendous respect and value. The way he spoke about the balabatim. And the way he took seriously, he gave many shiurim, a shiur before davening on Shabbos, a shiur right after davening, a shiur Shabbos afternoon, a daf yomi at night for many years, a daf yomi in the morning. Many shiurim that he delivered during the week in Iyun daf yomi shiur once a week, Thursday nights, a Mesias Yisharim shiur for a Tkufa Motzei Shabbos, all different shiurim. Each person came, it was like serious, you're learning Torah. And I saw there were balabatim. There's a yid, Rev Harvey Halpert, a friend of my father's, should live for long years. My father, to describe the connection, the friendship, the yedidus, la ya'uman. There's a yid who's in Olam Haba today, Mr. Sam Bergman. They were in my father's share for 42 years. They learned together. You know what that means? A guy gets a little overwhelmed, like he's 2 years by Musar. I'm feeling sorry for him. They listened for 42 years. My father's jokes can get stale. He was like not reading new joke books and updating. 42 years in the shir. Everyone, and there was tons of them. The people who learned with my father, they all became big tzaddikim, big people, and their kids are lo ya'uman. Sam Bergman's son is a Talmud Chacham Muflig, not wild. Harvey Halpert's son is a Talmud Chacham. Rav Ram Shmulevitz told me in 50 years, I haven't met somebody so good in learning. One after another, they became big. Soimchea, those that support Torah. My father was mechazik. He pushed the people around him to support Torah. He pushed them. They gave millions of dollars, and he was proud of it, and he pushed them. He pushed, support Torah. The guy who runs the Adapter Koil told me in the 5 towns, your father's shul was the first Koil supported, but that we had was, he pushed, he didn't get Chassidish, Litvish, Svard, that they're learning Torah. He held of supporting Torah. It surprised me, but the Chassidish, I like all Yidden. You're not Chassidish, Svard, Ashkenaz, Mizrahi, what's the difference? They learn Torah. He supported it. Saimchea, those that support Torah, Mu'ushar, he saw that, he was mechazik that, and all the people around him that were beautiful supporters of Torah, they all became Mu'ushar, so fortunate, beautiful children, la yu'uman, anybody who was in the, if the Chevrier knows, I say the names, if you saw it, kid after kid, Gedolim and Gainim, crazy, not a normal thing. He told them, you support Torah. Saimcheha ma'ushar. That's the second pasuk. The third and final pasuk I'd like to learn and end with, I apologize. My father would have big tainas that it's going this long. I'm still working. But he would have tainas, that's true. The ways of Torah are sweet. Typically you see a masmid, they're heavy. They're like so intense. My father was a wild learner and was relaxed and chilled. He would come to Sulam. It was like fun. It was nice to have him around. Friendly to all, men, women, and children. The ways of the Torah are sweet and delightful and kind and soft. Time for people. He loved whitewater rafting. You know how many people he took whitewater rafting? I have a line about my father. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, Yenis Gashmias is your ruchnias. I want to say about my father was such a pure person, his Gashmias became the world's ruchnias. What do I mean? He liked whitewater rafting. You know how many people are healthier? Because my father liked whitewater rafting. He took hundreds of people in his little rafts and boats and things, whitewater rafting. When our family flipped over and our kids, it was dangerous. My wife swore we never went again. But he took whitewater rafting, geschmack. He had a motto, if it ain't dangerous, it ain't funny, geschmack. But he liked skiing. You know how many people he took skiing? Hundreds and hundreds of people. Children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, Yisayimim, Almanas, water rafting, skiing, the amount of people staggering. The ways of the Torah are sweet and pleasant. It's sweet. A Yid came to Shiva in Eretz Yisrael, a nephew. He said, I always had like a bad feel. A guy was a masma, I was like, get me out of here. He said, I met your father. It's like, he's just so nice and geschmack. And I want to say it wasn't the forced chill. It wasn't like being from to be a masma. He loved Torah. He learned it beautifully and clearly and softly and delightfully. He had time. When my father was learning Torah, when I was growing up, I was playing ball in the room. I was whizzing balls over his head, under his head. Never, no issue, no problem. He had good concentration, it's true. Much deeper. He was a pleasant person. His kid's entitled to run around. We were flying around the room. I had ways I liked playing sports myself. The brother close in age to me was not too big into sports. I'd have catches with myself, diving plays I'd make. Under him, it even can happen, I can collide. He was learning. He learned Torah, no problem. Never like, excuse shah. I never heard shah. I dove around, making my catches, listening to the Mets. No problem. In the room. No problem. He's learning Torah. The ways of the Torah are sweet. He's a person who makes every minyan, never late. His son is struggling with minyan. Not a word. The ways of the Torah are sweet, are kind, are nice. He was a nice person to everybody. Men, women, and children. The impact of his Torah, he was an ambassador. You couldn't walk away but say, I have a relative now who spent time, my father was sick, was supposed to go to law school. My father would be mad. The guy said, I'm not letting go of Torah, I'm sorry. I can't. My father would yell at him, go to law school and learn everything. He wouldn't, not saying he'd be maskim. But he was an ambassador for Torah. His ways were sweet. And the last line is, Kol Nesivai Seah Shalom. All its paths are peace. And I'd like to say, Pshadas, what does that mean? I'd like to say as follows. A derech is a much bigger road. A nesiv, I don't know I'm right, it's a sense. A nesiv, and Svarim speak about it. I like learning Torah. I have to read it and relate to it myself. So there's Svarim, you can look up, indulge. A nesiv to me seems a narrower path than a derech. Dracheh Darchinayim is the way of Torah is sweet, but there are nesivos. There are many ways in learning Torah. And typically, if there are many paths, people will fight. He does this, she does that. We're different. My father's mid of respecting all types of Yidden were respected and appreciated. All. There was no type. Kol nesivai seha shalom. All the paths of Torah, all the different ways people learn, all the different ways people relate, all its paths are peaceful. There's coexistence amongst all the different types of people learning. All its paths have the possibility of shalom. It doesn't have to be, if I'm doing this, everybody else is. It doesn't have to be that way. And my parents, they live like this. They learn Torah with seriousness. He forgiven the other person. He was a big machmir for himself. The other person, my mother said he wouldn't turn right on a red light in a place that wasn't legal, middle of the night. He had shaitas. He was very machmir for himself. He had chumras, he had kulas. He was very careful with halacha. But he forgiven the other person, respected, appreciated, celebrated the other person. We had a bacher in yeshiva, had a nice pony. When my father came, he wasn't nice to the kid, like, oh, he's being nice to that kid as a pony. He's probably straight. I actually liked him. He thought he was very funny. He loved his smile. My father, for years, my father loved this bacher in Sulam. He just respected. All the paths were shalom. It's not when you serve Hashem that all of a sudden you reject and knock and make fun of others. That's not the way it was or is. Kol nesivay shalom. Said many times that I learned Nidarim with my tata, and I learned the Gemara that Talmidei Chacham's kids are not Talmidei Chacham because they call people Chamayrim. Now, if it means the kid's not a Talmid Chacham, it means the father is not. It doesn't go to his kid, it means he's not. And I have brothers that are Talmidei Chacham. I never finished Shas. I have a brother who finished Shas. I still hope to learn Shas one day. And my father was a Talmid Chacham. He never called somebody a Chamar. People were respected. The guy who slept in the daf was a beautiful person who's coming to learn Torah. Deserves respect and got respected and was respected. The guy has a ponytail and he's sitting in Sulam. My father loved him. He was like his favorite. He had a beautiful smile. Kol nesivay shalom. All the paths of the nation that's Mekabel the Torah, the nation that learns Torah, are respected and appreciated. So I want to share, I hope I did justice to a person, to my parents, my mother and father. They were one team, teammates in the deepest way, teammates in the hospital at the end. My mother was walking around the room, and I thought she was looking for Mizrach to daven. So I said, Ima, should I find out? My phone doesn't do it. I see guys have phones, they could and it points you east. So I'll ask one of the nurses, I'll get information. Should I tell you Mizrach? She said, oh no. She said, oh no, I'm facing the Aron. I'm going to daven towards the Aron. I heard my mother sing to my father in the last week when he wasn't conscious, sing Torah Hashem Tamima. Torah Hashem. I heard my mother sing it. It was Naira. I heard my mother sing Torah Hashem Tamima to my father. They were teammates who respected each other and decided to learn and teach Torah. That's what they did for a lifetime of taught Torah. We saw people who were rich, the richest people I know. They're successful in this world, and they're ambassadors. You were around them, you couldn't help but say, Torah is the way to go. There's no... So I'd like to share this. The people that knew him know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, I'm not exaggerating. A person who learned and taught Torah and took Torah seriously, took teaching Torah seriously, and took people who learned Torah very seriously. You learn and teach Torah and live it and be honest about it. And this is a person who was very mu'usher. I'd like to sing these words. Again, the guys who bear with me every Monday and Thursday, I will stop soon singing. Maybe even davening. I have to find out the halacha. I don't know. Do people go to the same minyan the whole time? It's got to be pretty bad for the listeners to hear. I don't know how that works. We'll figure it out, Chevra. But at least if we could sing together. If Johnny, if you could start. I'd love that you start from the first pasuk. If you could start it. No
Chai
Shalom. Oy leman beis Hashem Elokeinu v'ava shatav v'ayla. Oy leman beis Hashem Elokeinu v'ava shatav I thank every single person for coming out tonight. I thank Yitz Rabinowitz, who sponsored the food and put together and arranged. I thank all the mishpachas, the kollel, Yaakov Metz, Rav Yaakov Shlita, Rav Ezra Shlita, and the kollel that started here. Everything's hashkacha, that there's a kollel in the Beis Medrash now, learning Torah in this Beis Medrash. I thank each person for being here. A good night and a good Shabbos.